Welcome everybody to another episode of Oddly Specific Pop, now in video. I am your host, Luis
Hey,
Chavez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, AJ Hoven. How you doing, AJ?
I'm pretty good, Lou. I'm pretty good. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm
Yeah.
really excited because we're tackling uh, a topic that we did not get to cover, period, right? Uh, and
Mhm.
we're a little late to it.
Well, I was actually gonna
Let
say
me
it's
tell you.
timely. No, just kidding. Yeah, we're very late.
So, I don't know if anybody's a big fan of the Oscars, but we're gonna tackle the Oscars this time
For
around.
this little event, small little indie award show, um, called the Oscars.
So, this is my favorite Oscar, Oscar Martinez.
That's
I
nice.
think underrated, highly educated, way too smart for the job he has,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, he doesn't get enough recognition in the cast of The Office.
A cultural touchstone too, because he's probably the most well-read. Um, and the most inclined to know about the arts in the office. So
Exactly. And right behind them is Oscar the Grouch.
that's my favorite, actually.
So I
Oscar
kind
the
of
Grouch.
figured Oscar the Grouch,
Mm-hmm.
for most of you who know him, he's from Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
As you can
Mm-hmm.
tell, we have visual aids this time around
Yes.
because we're really
Well,
high
we
tech
are.
around here.
We are. We are.
He's a rounded cast from Sesame Street, but that is not what we're talking about. Although I could talk another 30 minutes about Oscar and Oscar.
Like we could. I feel like there's a long-winded and really pretentious critique about capitalism that involves both Oscars and but we're not going to do that. No, we are talking about the Oscars, but not those Oscars. We're going to talk about the Oscars. um, sorry, it's been a really long day. We missed them this year. We weren't able to sort of get together in time for when they happened. But we did have some thoughts.
We did.
So yeah, why don't we just Lou, you had kind of an interesting idea for what we might do today. Why don't you talk a little bit about it?
For those of you that know us pretty well, you know that we like to complain. Primarily me. I love to complain. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Complaining and reading books is up there. Playing games and cameras, all up there. Favorite pastimes. So, although I appreciate all the nominees and people who won the Oscars, we're all also going to give these nominations and nominees a chance to win the coveted OSP, the podcast honorary Dundee Award, which they will get in the
Hey,
mail at some point.
there it is.
So, it's
We got
engraved.
those special made.
Yeah, just right before the quarantine.
Yes, right in time.
Yeah, we're responsible adults right before.
Yes.
So any of these categories may still be the same winner, or if people that like us don't agree with these decisions, we might just give it to somebody else.
Spoiler alert, we might just end up giving a lot of these to someone else. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll
What
see.
category are we starting off with, Lou?
Let's start nice and easy. Best production design, just right off the bat. So the
Okay.
nominees were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
The Irishman, Jojo
Mm-hmm.
Rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
1917, and Parasite.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And the Oscar went to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because they were able to replicate 1960s Hollywood,
60s
in
Hollywood.
that patch of that patch of street filled with 1960s cars.
Right. And also a back lot, right? They did a lot of shooting in
Yes.
back lots.
It took a lot
Um,
of effort for Universal Studios to give them the rights to be able to shoot back there. So,
this is funny. So like this category, I'm gonna have little little input because like I only watched one film in this group, but being ill-informed has never stopped me from giving an opinion. So let me just say that for me, just sort of like based on what I know about all of these films, I feel like production design, you probably needed to have 1917 be one of the front runners for this. Um, I would also say there's some real amazing, and we talked about this in last week's episode, but there are a lot of amazing set pieces um, in Parasite that I think would be really, really, from a technical angle, would sort of force you to look at the way they set up and designed a lot of those shots and sets. Um, and I can also imagine that the on the technical side that maybe because it's Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Parasite, Once Upon a Time, and what was the last one?
and The Irishman.
That was it. Irishman gets in there because of the CGI stuff, right? The de-aging. Like,
I think there's another category for that actually.
oh, there is. Okay. So then no, then in that case, what I would do is it'd be sort of between 1917 and Parasite. I didn't see Jojo Rabbit, and nothing in it made me think, at least for how I understand this category, that it would be in there. But yeah, I think it'd be between 1917 and Parasite. This
I
was this
agree.
was their this was the Academy's way of giving some recognition to Quentin, right, or to that film, because they were basically shut out of everything else except for Brad Pitt. Am I correct?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
weren't they also nominated for best uh, movie, best picture? No, they weren't. No, yeah, they were.
They were, but what I mean is that they were gonna walk away that evening empty-handed, right? Like
Oh,
this was the
gotcha.
one, this was the one category that they took home.
Hmm.
Um, so
I mean,
yeah,
we'll see. The night is young, AJ.
that's true. I mean, in terms of the OSP awards, no, they are still empty-handed. I have, I have a sense Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is gonna
Yeah.
get shut out tonight.
No, I agree. I agree with that because I watched Jojo Rabbit as well, and it reads to me more like a fairy tale, not like Disney fairy tales, more like Dwight Schrute fairy tales, where it's like a hard lesson and some harsh truths.
Right, right.
But in terms of production design, it felt very like out there a little bit, and it's a small
Mhm.
scale story. So like if they were to win, like great, but yeah, I agree. Either 1917 and Parasite. I watched 1917, and that movie's a feat is insane. That production design and everything that went down to it is insane. So a lot of the technical aspects, if 1917 were to take all of them home or most of them, I agree because it took it's kind of achievement
Right,
for that
right.
movie.
And that's sort of like how where I'd expect 1917 to really like sweep up a lot of things, the technical end, because I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, it's a spectacle and one of those films that's kind of worth viewing just to see it, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the next two categories are very similar. So I don't know if you have very deep thoughts about them. It's best sound editing and best sound mixing.
Hmm.
Do you want to go through those or do you want to just skip them?
Mm, let's Ooh, I feel like I should have a feeling, something to say about them, but let's skip them because we're definitely going to do like score, right?
So the next
Yeah.
big
Okay. So
category
yeah.
is going to be best film editing. So the nominees for
Okay.
this category, I think anything, honestly, if anybody else would have won this category, like last year, it was Bohemian Rhapsody. Anybody
Mhm.
could have taken it home, and I would have felt a lot better than what it was last year. Because, good Lord,
That was really a joke.
as an editor, it made me so mad. Because
Mhm.
in nothing against the I forget the guy who edited, because all these people are very talented editors. So what that tells me is that whatever they shot was so bad that he had to do all these cuts. Like, there was no way that that he was able to salvage actual takes. He had to like mishmash different takes. So yeah, best editing for 2020. The nominees are Ford versus Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. And to me, honestly, well, I'll just tell you the winner
Mhm.
first. The winner for this category was Ford versus Ferrari.
Mhm.
And honestly, for me, as long as it wasn't the Joker, I was fine with it. Although I have very strong feelings about Parasite, I think Parasite should win all of the awards. But in terms of like the movies that I saw, both Jojo Rabbit and Parasite were excellent. They're both excellent in editing. So either one of those would have won in my book. But especially because I talk very high in regard on Parasite, the editing and the directing and the script and all that, they all work together to make a great film. So if this wasn't great, it wouldn't have been as good as it was. So maybe
Mhm.
now that I think about it, I think Parasite should have definitely taken it, because I,
Mhm.
I talked very strongly on the editing on Parasite in last week's episode. So
Yeah.
in my book, Parasite should have taken it. What about you, AJ?
Of the nominees, Parasite's the only film I saw. Yeah. Um, and I'd be fine with them taking it. And like I don't know enough about editing to be certain, but I will say that for the type of story that Parasite was, the editing was crucial. And so the fact that the way the cuts were made and the way that the film felt seamless, and again, it's one of those things where you feel like not a frame is wasted. Um, a lot of that, in my opinion, should be credited to a very good editor. So that's one. But I do think that Knives Out should have been included in the nominees. And that's because in a whodunit, especially when you've got the type of whodunit that, they do the trope where they cycle through everything and then show you and sort of unpack the box for you. um, Everything needs to make logical sense, especially things in the background. And the thing about Knives Out is that, as we talked about in the episode where we went over that film, is that that film makes even more sense in future viewings.
Mhm.
Like there's the integrity of the film doesn't pull away, and that's vital. And I feel like that is where an editor and a director have to be very, very close and have to just really like, I don't know, I imagine it'd be pretty fanatical about like how a scene is set, where how you lit or set up the shot, how you placed your actors and performers in a frame. All of those things have to be right, and then you have to make it right when you see it on screen. And I think that that's challenging. I've never been in an editing bay. I've never had to work sort of in that capacity. So maybe I'm overselling it, but I felt like, um, yeah, I felt like Knives Out was one of those films where I could feel like not watching it, but after I got done, I was just like, oh yeah, that was a well put together and well sort of pieced movie, and that's
Mhm.
something that I sort of like assign to editing. So I could be wrong. I don't know enough about the industry to sort of be certain, but like I feel like Knives Out should have at least gotten a nomination.
100%. So if I were to pick between just those two, because I also agree that Knives Out should have been in it, I would still pick Parasite. because Knives Out, although I think the editing is very strong, it's also because of a strong script. And I know for the director of Parasite, which I butcher his name every time I say it. So AJ, could you just say it for me?
You said it right the last time. Bong Joon Ho.
There you go. So every time, since how invested he is in the editing process, and with all the behind the scenes I've seen of Parasite, I will still give it to Parasite. But either one of those could have taken the OSP Dundee. So
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. Toss up between those two masterpieces, modern
100%.
classics.
Yes. I mean, I didn't watch Ford versus Ferrari because it's not a movie that I'm interested in, but I hear
Yeah.
very good things about it. So I might still check it out. So my opinions might change, but they probably won't. But I'm still open minded enough to be able to think
Give it a
maybe.
try. Yeah. It could
Because that's what
happen.
the Academy cares.
Yeah.
They care.
Academy cares. They do.
They care. So the next big category is best visual effects, and this is a stacked category. AJ, the winner. Well, I won't tell you the winner, but the nominees were Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, The Lion
Oh,
King,
winner. Both.
The
Tie.
Irishman,
Three-way tie.
Avengers,
Four-way
Endgame,
tie.
and
Five-way
1917.
tie. Oh gosh. That's rough. Ooh, can I guess the winner
You
first?
should guess,
Can
yeah.
we play? Okay. Avengers Endgame.
Wrong.
Oh
That's who I
no.
thought was gonna win because they weren't really nominated for very much this year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of like their victory lap.
That's
With
what I was gonna say. I was like, this should have been like their victory lap. This
yeah,
was the one, but okay, it's a stack category. Who ended up winning?
1917 took the
Oh,
win.
good.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
although my money was on Avengers Endgame, just based solely because they were,
Right.
it's that their last hurrah, right? The 10 years of filmmaking was coming to a close, and didn't really nominate any actors for Best Actor or anything like that,
Yeah.
or they didn't like
Yeah.
shoot for anything like that. So I thought this is the category they're going to take home. But 1917 took it home. But I agree with this win anyway
Yeah.
because I think I mentioned it last week too. Like the best visual effects are the ones you don't notice, and 1917. It's a epic war story, right? It's a timepiece, or it's a very. If you were to notice the CGI in a war epic, it kind of takes you out of it. And so
Yeah.
if you didn't notice any CGI in this movie, it kind of did its job, and I thought it did its job very, very well. I think it's one of the best shot movies, and the CGI elements that they added, they were seamless with everything. So I 100% agree with this nomination and win.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah. The sort of crowning the Avengers only makes sense if you're sort of playing that achievement game. But I mean, I would prefer that the Academy just gave it to a film that felt like it merited, that win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to see again when you have a film that sort of gets an award that at least makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
make it make sense for us, Academy. Just make it make sense for us. So yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sad for Rise of Skywalker and The Lion King and The Irishman though.
Yeah.
What a strong trio of
I mean, and
films.
honestly, the things I enjoyed about the Rise of Skywalker the most were the CGI elements. So yeah, if they would have taken it home, I would have thought, well, I guess. I enjoyed the CGI in this, but yeah, 100% deserved. The next category is best cinematography, and the
Mm,
nominees were also a stacked category, kind of.
mhm.
AJ, kind of. Just
Okay.
trying to set it up a little bit. The categories, I mean, the nominees were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
Robert Richardson, The Lighthouse, Jaron
Oh yeah.
Blazczyk,
Yeah.
Joker, Lawrence Sher, The Irishman, Rodrigo Prieto, and 1917, Roger Deakins.
This was 1917, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Hmm. Interesting group. Um. I guess I can't really complain too much about. I didn't see enough of the films to really complain a ton about them, but I felt like knowing 1917 and sort of like what went into it, and then it was Roger Deakins. I get it. Like that makes a ton of sense. Um, I found the cinematography in quite a few films interesting. And so what I'm really interested in hearing is for you if you felt this category was complete with the nominees, number one, and then if you think 1917 with a more complete, because I'm presuming that there are a couple of like snubs that you felt, um and if they were included in this category, if you would have like felt like 1917 still takes it.
So two come to mind right off the bat. One was Parasite again, because like I keep saying, the reason why that movie is so good is because every aspect of the movie was amazing. I think everybody brought their
Mhm.
A game for this film. I think they were definitely snubbed. I think they should have been at least nominated, because I thought the cinematography in that movie is amazing.
Mhm.
And the other one was Little Women. That was another movie that,
Yeah. Yeah.
the only two times that I notice things in the movie is when it's amazing or when it's really really bad. And Little Women was one of those movies that just I was in awe with every shot, because it's not like an epic movie, or like it's not,
Right. Right.
it's not a thriller, or things that you kind of like, it gets you on the edge of your seat. It's
Right.
more of a slow story, and every frame that I forget who did the cinematography, so forgive me for not knowing their name, but I definitely thought that they should have been nominated, and in my humble opinion, I think they should have won. Um,
Wow.
I think right next to 1917, even and I don't know. It's hard for me to decide, because even 1970 Parasite is up there. I think out
Yeah.
of those three, I couldn't pick.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you told me I had to pick, I think maybe I would have gone with Little Women, just because it's unexpected for me
Hmm.
when I was watching the movie. Like, the cinematography is not something I was gonna be like, wow, this is an amazing shot, and the way that this scene is set up and everything. Um, it's not something I thought I was gonna notice, and I noticed it because it was so good. So if I had to pick just based on that, I think maybe Little Women, but Parasite and 1917 right behind it. And any of these, if they would have taken it home, I would have been like, great.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting because I feel the same way about Little Women. Um it is such a beautifully shot and colored film. Like the way they bring texture out of their shots is really wonderful. Um there are two smaller indie films that I raved about last year a lot, that I think deserve mention. Again, I think it's kind of tough because they were so small, but The Farewell and The Last Black Man in San Francisco featured some of the most amazing cinematography I'd seen. um and I mean, maybe that's just kind of a hallmark of like indie films is that the way that they're going to hold your attention, besides just like really strong performances and maybe like a small intimate kind of story, is that they're going to at least ensure that there was a reason for you to see it in a cinema, that there was this thing that you need to see this in a giant screen, or seeing it in ultra high def is a great thing still, because like you're drawn into color. I remember there are the scene in The Farewell that really got me was this long tracking shot of Aquafina walking along the sidewalk, as she's sort of like wrestling, sort of like internally with some issues. And I was just like, this is much more beautiful than it has any right to be. Like, it doesn't have
Mm.
to do that. And then there's this wonderful shot in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, where the main character is skateboarding down one of those hills in San Francisco, and with his friend sort of following behind him. And it is such a beautiful, lush shot. And, maybe also the score helps and because it's swelling during that moment. But it really is beautiful. So, yeah, I think that um, I think that what's really wonderful is that there's a lot of good looking movies out there that you can get.
Hmm.
Like they don't have to be epics, which is really neat, right? Like those are the things. But yeah, Little Women surprised me. Um because I guess I wasn't expecting that eye or attention to detail to
Hmm.
sort of like pull you out of the sort of almost claustrophobic space of being in such tight quarters with these characters,
Yeah.
that when they would put you in some of these like open settings, it suddenly kind of gave your eyes and maybe you internally an opportunity to sort of like breathe. Yeah, that's a really great choice to win. I'll second you on that one. They
So
win
there you go.
the OSP Dundee.
There you go. Next on the list, best original score.
Mm,
The category was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and I
mhm,
kind of that's a given because it's John Williams' last Star Wars movie. Was he not going to be nominated?
mhm,
1917, Thomas Newman. Marriage
mhm.
Story, Randy Newman, which is surprising after I learned that he was the, the composer for Marriage Story.
You got a friend in me. That's in Marriage Story, right?
That should have been a hint for me to know that it was Randy Newman. It's like, what is the Toy Story theme doing here? What is the Bugs Life theme doing here? Oh,
I I wouldn't know the Bugs Life theme. I only saw ants.
you don't know it? I'm a bug. You're a bug.
Wait, what? Oh
It's a
boy.
classic.
Oh boy.
The next
Nice.
one is Little Women, Alexandre Desplat,
Hmm.
and Joker, Hildur. Oh my God, that's a lot of letters.
Oh, he's Icelandic, I believe.
I think so. Guanadotir. That's as
Hmm.
good as I can do it.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you want to guess what this category, AJ.
Was this the category Joker one?
Yes.
I knew it. Um yeah, no, I get it, I guess. Like the musical cues I heard were interesting. I'll have to look. A lot of Icelandic composers are like killing it. I don't know what it is.
Isn't the guy who did the music for Black Panther also from Iceland?
Yes, and that guy also did the score for Creed.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, no. And then the guy who did the score for Arrival is, I think, Icelandic. Um, it may have been the same guy as Black Panther and Creed. No, I don't think so. But yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of heavy hitters from there. I guess I thought the Little Woman score was really, really good. So if we're gonna go with like folks that are in the category, I would have gone with them.
Hmm.
Um, but the single best um uh soundtrack from this past year, the one that like I've listened to the most, is The Last Black Man in San
Yeah.
Francisco. It is an incredibly beautiful score. Um, and I don't know if they would count this. Like I don't think it there's a space to nominate it. But there's a song that's in there, and it's a cover. But it's one of those really incredibly well done and re engineered almost cover.
Mm.
And I felt like that. Oh my god, it just made the film. So yeah, I feel like the music and the musical cues in The Last Black Man in San Francisco are just so beautiful, and it's been one of my great writing partners for just about 6 months now. So yeah, I would say that they deserve a nomination, and if they were in the category, I would have awarded it to them. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie, but I've listened to a couple of tracks, and I agree they're very, very good. So that's still in my list of movies to watch for
yeah.
this upcoming weeks. So I'm excited to get to that one. Um, if I was to pick, I mean, I don't know. Little Women, I think that would have been my choice, but it could have gone to any of these. Honestly, I thought it was going to be John Williams because it's his last hurrah. Again, with the whole Avengers, Star Wars things, everything coming to an end. I thought, oh, they'll just give it to him, as a
Yeah, maybe you just give them the one for the, to sort of put the cap on everything.
yeah. So for the whole, because he's one of the best composers alive right now. And he has quite a legacy, not just with Star Wars, with everything else. I thought, maybe if they want to just kind of like honor him that way, they would have.
Right. Yeah.
But I think Little Women would have been my choice. Marriage Story. Now that I know that it's Randy Newman, it makes a lot of sense because it's very like bouncy, which
John T.
I think you should watch it just now that we both know it's Randy Newman. You should watch it just to hear the musical cues, which it still boggles my mind that it's Randy Newman. I don't know why it's blowing my mind,
Well,
but it
like,
is
have you spent time listening to Randy Newman's stuff, like his actual work?
a
I
little
shouldn't say
bit.
like his non-Disney work, like from
Yeah,
before.
but
Like
even
it is.
then, like I'm not saying it's bad. Like I like Randy Newman, but I'm saying like he has a very distinct
Mhm,
style of
mhm.
music that you
Yeah.
as it's kind of like Danny Elfman, not in the
Oh
same
yeah.
realm, but where like you
Right.
hear it and you know it's Danny Elfman,
Right.
so it's kind of in the same camp.
Yeah.
So for me, a musical score for a movie issue elevate the film and not distract you. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
not saying that
Yeah.
that happened here, but now that I know it's Randy Newman, it'll be so
Yeah. You can't. You
distracting.
literally can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's there all the time.
Yeah. So I think my pick would have been Little Women. I still haven't seen Last Black Men in San Francisco, but I think I wouldn't have given it to the Joker. Also because I haven't seen it, uh, and I don't think I will. It's not for me.
I've
For
already,
me, it feels like like last year's Green Book or the year before that. Was it? I
it
think it
was
was
last
last
year.
year. Yeah,
Well, I
it kind of
mean,
feels
yeah, it
like
was the
that.
year.
It kind of feels
Yeah.
like that to me, where I'm like, this movie's not really for me. It's for a certain kind of person that I'm not going to mention. Um, so I mean, good for you. Not Hilder
You've been
Guan.
starved for representation.
Yeah,
You Green Book and Joker movie person.
yeah.
So you got two.
Finally,
You
a
got two.
movie for me. Uh, okay, the
Yeah.
next category is Best Original Song. And the nominees for this were Stand Up, Harriet, Joshua Bryan Campbell, and Cynthia Erivo. Into the
Oh.
Unknown, Frozen
Mm-hmm.
2, Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez. I'm Standing
Mm-hmm.
With You, Breakthrough, Diane Warren, I Can't Let You Throw Away Yourself Away, Toy Story 4, Randy Newman. And last, I'm Gonna Love Me Again, Rocket Man, Elton John, and Bernie Taupin. And the winner was I'm Gonna Love Me Again, Rocket Man,
Mm-hmm.
Elton John.
I did not see Rocket Man.
I did see
Um,
Rocket Man.
yeah, you liked it.
I did like it, but I thought this song was the worst part of the movie,
Oh,
which is at the end.
really?
It's at the end of it's the credits end
Mhm.
credits
Oh,
song.
interesting.
I like Elton John's music, and I really really like that movie. I watched it on a plane, and I bought it when I got home because it was so good, especially after uh, Bohemian Rhapsody. It boggles my mind why that movie was nominated for so many awards when this movie was far superior. If you were
Mm-hmm.
to like nominate, a biopic,
Mm-hmm.
nominate this one.
Mm.
It's so
Mm.
it's so inventive. I don't know. Maybe we'll do an episode on it because I have feelings on
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because of Bohemian Rhapsody. But yeah, I've listened to the song. It's not my favorite, but good for Elton John.
Yeah.
But if I was to give it to somebody else, I don't know. I thought Into the Unknown was very good, and that's the only other song that I've heard besides "I Can't Let You Throw Away Yourself" from Randy Newman. I thought Into the Unknown would have taken it if I was to like bet on something. I think
Mm-hmm.
Frozen 2 would have taken it.
Yeah. I've only heard two songs in this grouping. You and I talked a little bit about Frozen 2, and I believe that the music was really good. I think Into the Unknown is a good song. I think the problem is, unlike in Frozen 1, they actually had like 4 songs that were like maybe not clear bangers like in the way that Let It Go was, but were so good that they probably should have gone with one of the others. Like I
And
personally would have
honestly,
chosen.
can I
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
guess?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not the same one, but my favorite from Frozen 2, and I don't even know
Hmm.
the name of it. It's Kristoff's big song.
Oh yeah.
It's I don't think it's the best song, but I think it's the most fun song, and it was made specific for a very small few of people, and I think maybe I was one of them because that was my favorite part of the movie. Besides like the big plot or whatever,
Right.
I thought that song would have been nominated for this, but I think Unto the Unknown, I think that was the big song, the big push, at
Right.
least.
For me, it actually should have been Show Yourself. I love Lost in the Woods. It's the one song that, because it's a guy lead, I can actually sing the whole way through. But I feel like Show Yourself that's the showstopper,
Mm-hmm.
like that if you were doing this live, that would be, you drop the curtain, change the piece, the set, and then take you into the final act, which it kind of does in the film itself. Like that's how it operates. And so I found it really interesting that they wanted to go with Into the Unknown. uh, I still can't get over it. Like it's not bad, but there's something weird about the Panic at the Disco version. Like I was really surprised when I got to the credits and that's where we went. Because the thing that was interesting, and maybe this is why people, like, I loved it, but I think that this is maybe why people didn't quite resonate with the soundtrack for Frozen 2, is that it was clear Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez were playing with genre, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
the first one's a country folk song. Um, uh, for Elsa, you got 2 belting ballads, right?
Right.
You got a traditional musical number with the ensemble, you know, and then Christoph's is Peter Cetera era Chicago, right? A power ballad. And then you get Anna's one song, which is like your quiet um, moment,
Mm-hmm.
to build you into a climax. So like I thought that what was really interesting was how they really like um, played with the texture of music, throughout the thing. And so I maybe that's why people were like, I don't know how I feel about this. But I also genuinely think that if they went with a different pick for best original song, it would have made them stand out. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of sad that they chose Into the Unknown, because it was probably the most middle
No.
of the road of the most known, the most knowable, the most obvious
Well,
of the
yeah,
choices.
I agree
Yeah.
because the this felt more like the when I heard it first, I was like, oh, this is the next Let It Go. Like
Mhm.
it's formulated
Mhm.
in a way where this is the
Mhm.
big song, even though I
Mhm.
think they're really uh, shortchanged themselves because all of the other music was also very good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it
You know?
was all like really smart in the way that Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez are very smart, lyrically, and even and musically. Like they are just really interesting composers, songwriters that I've enjoyed. Like if you listen to the Frozen 2 soundtrack, they've got outtakes, and there are a couple of outtakes in there that I'm just like, oh my god, how did you decide to cut this? Like
Hmm.
how did you choose like to sort of walk away from this, because it's a really really good song. And then also kind of similar to sort of like what Lin-Manuel Miranda did when he was sort of going through with I think the year following Hamilton's kind of breakthrough, he started releasing demos of songs that were cut out and stuff like that, and you could see sort of the elements that he really loved finding a home and living in the final product, right? And so it
Hmm.
was a similar deal in this. Like there's one song that's like an outtake, and it has that back and forth between um, Elsa and the mother, which finds its home in "Show Yourself," and it's like my favorite part of that song. And the way that it's weaved in into that moment and used as like the climactic like push really really gets me every time. Like every time like I'll watch that part of the movie, I'm always like, oh god, falling apart on the inside again. And so yeah, I wish they would have chosen a different song to yeah, to sort of represent that film, because I think that they had some interesting choices.
Hmm.
I mean, if they wanted to really like blow people away and sort of give them the curveball, they could have gone with Kristoff's song. Lost in the Woods would have been weird for everyone.
Yeah. I think this was like the Oscar pick, they're like, this is the most likely to get picked for
Yeah.
best original song. But like I said, I didn't think it was that stacked of a category. So I thought Frozen 2 was going to take it. But yeah, Elton John, I think, like, I said with Star Wars or with Avengers, I think this is what happened here. I mean, you could be the judge of it. Honestly, I thought it was not one of Elton John's best songs because he has, some great, great songs in his repertoire and his catalog of music. But I'm happy. I'm fine with it.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So the next category is Best Animated Feature. So
Mm.
the nominees for this were Missing Link, Klaus, I Lost My Body, How to Train Your Dragon, and Toy Story 4. Which this was a weird one for me,
Mm.
the category itself, because I thought Frozen 2 should have been here regardless. In Especially because everybody thought, if it's okay, then it'll be a hit. But it was a great movie, a great animated movie. So for it to not be nominated at all is very, very surprising, especially since Klaus is in here, because I didn't hear much buzz on it um, at all, unless you heard different.
I did. It was weird. I haven't seen it yet. It's a Netflix movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Klaus that I heard is that the animation is unique. And based on what I've seen in terms of the trailers and stuff, I get it. Um, the Missing Link one, that's the Leica production, and they've been sort of slowly racking up their nominations year to year. I think they had Kubo and the Two Strings a couple of years ago. Um, yeah, I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but the thing about Frozen 2, especially in repeated viewings, that I fear doesn't hold up, is the final set of animation with Elsa coming down the
Mm-hmm.
tidal wave. like it's photorealist water, and then obviously like CGI animation Elsa on a ice horse,
Hmm.
ice Pegasus. Um it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And I, to this day, I don't understand why they made those choices,
Hmm.
especially with the budget that they had.
I mean, when
And so I'm,
CGI looks bad, the rule of thumb usually means they ran out of time. They were trying to hit that
yeah,
deadline, and they were like, "Whatever, this is how it's going to be."
yeah, it looks so obviously bad, especially like now. Like you see it like four times, as
Hmm.
often as I've seen it like over the last few weeks. um it just, that period gets worse. And what's wild to me is that you had this huge set piece, this huge scene of Elsa trying to tame the horse in water, and it looks spectacular. It looks beautiful there. And you get
Hmm.
to like perhaps the most important visual thing for the resolution. And yeah, you're right. I guess maybe they ran out of time, but it's a disappointment for a studio with that much
Hmm.
money to throw around. So
Oh yeah.
I would say that like maybe it's me being petty, but Frozen 2 didn't deserve to be there simply for that reason. And that's a lot to say, because it was like, it really was such a wonderful film. Musically, it is really, really strong as a musical.
Hmm.
Um Narratively, it remains very interesting, and I feel that there's a lot to sort of like glean from it, and you can start just a boatload of discussions, sort of like from the backstory.
Hmm.
um but yeah, I'm still really annoyed by that one thing.
Yeah, no, I think
It's
it
like
definitely should have
15
been.
seconds and it's bad.
I think it should have been nominated. I don't think it should have won. So, like Toy Story 4 winning, I'm pretty happy with it. I think any other year, a stacked year in animation, it might have not won. But this year, I think it was definitely a solid movie, Toy Story 4, and I really, really liked it. But usually you see more uh, original movies, especially from Pixar. So a lot of the times it's Pixar getting these original ideas out.
Mhm.
But I'm happy with the win for Toy Story 4.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Next category is Best Adapted Screenplay, which okay, we'll talk about it. So
Mhm.
the category was, I mean, the uh,
Nominees.
nominees were The Two Popes, Anthony McCartan, Little Women, Greta Gerwig, Joker, Todd Phillips, and Scott Silver, The Irishman, Stephen Zalian, and Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi. So I don't know if you know who won. Do you want to guess?
Taika, right? This was Taika's
Like,
category. Yeah.
yes, Taika won, and I love Taika quite a bit, and I think he deserved the win specifically because it's kind of an original idea. Like it's not so much because it's adapted from something else. It's from a book. So I like the idea itself, but if I would have picked, I thought Little Women should have definitely taken the win out of the ones I saw, because I think, especially, I haven't seen the original or the other adaptations of Little Women, but from what my wife was seeing, the original or the ones from the 90s or the 80s, she changed quite a bit in this, and it really says a little bit more than originally the book or even the adaptations say. And I really appreciated that in the screenplay, and it's a really beautifully written uh, um screenplay. So I thought they should have won out of the nominees. I don't know who else I would have nominated. I think maybe Parasite again, but that's not adapted. That's more original. But yeah, I think that's who I would have picked.
Yeah, I would be with you there. Of the films that I saw, Little Women, I think is the only one that I saw. I was surprised. I didn't realize that Jojo Rabbit was adapted until I saw his win for this, and then I was like, oh, I guess I guess similar to you, it's not a bad choice, but just the way Little Women was written. Um, I thought was really great, because the thing that I learned about it afterwards was that there was all this um uh, there was like a whole lot of folks who I guess had indicated that Florence Pugh's character was the one they hated the most, like in the books or in other adaptations, but that Greta Gerwig's adaptation sort of redeemed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was funny, because it was like I remember watching it, I was like, oh my god, she is terrible. But then you get to the end and you're just like, oh hell yeah. No, not only should they end up together, and Joe shouldn't end up with him, um that's like right. And you don't feel an
Mm-hmm.
injustice in this. You feel like everything worked the way it ought to have, in a very satisfying way, and I don't know, for me, I'm not a woman, and so I can't sort of like speak to the portrayals of women, and maybe how that resonates for folks. But I just remember seeing there, like, was sitting there and thinking to myself, like, you really could have played Florence Pugh's character as a shrew, or just like any kind of tropey, like catty woman who like divides up, things, and even worse because she's blood related, to Joe. But they didn't do that, and I thought that was kind of wonderful. And it
Mm-hmm.
felt almost revolutionary to me, um, because she really could have been the villain in all of this, and she wasn't, and I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was wonderful. Especially when you're thinking about a family drama, because it's like it can get really easy if you're living through the eyes of one particular person, um, to sort of favor one story over the other. And if the whole thing is really about this unique family of women who managed to sort of stick it out together all the time, then the way that it ends up makes so much sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels like Greta Gerwig had to do a lot of work understanding layers of this original text, um, and loving it and the universe and the characters in a way that I think sometimes a lot of folks in this category don't always do. And I think that's the other thing, is that it's like this category is strange because you can include um, folks who take like for example, I don't know if it was, but Arrival was based on I don't know if it was nominated, but Arrival was based on a short story, right? And so the screenplay, if they were nominated for an Oscar, would have been the adapted category. And my
Mm-hmm.
understanding is they changed almost wholesale like the entire work, you know. And so you could have in this category, um, a film like that that really doesn't have much to say about its original source material. Um, and I don't know that that technically should count as adapted. Like I kind of get it. I understand why it has to sit in this category, but I don't know if that should count when I feel like the way that Greta Gerwig sort of massaged the story and sort of like the chronological order of how we learn things in Little Women, uh, that's more sort of like what an adapted work is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you love the source material, you live inside of that universe, and then you frame and create your entire story around that. And so yeah, I'm kind of sad she didn't win. I mean, again, nothing against Taika, but like I feel like I'm a little bit sad she didn't uh get an award there, especially
Yeah.
because we're going to get to a category where she should have been nominated and was not. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So the next category is Best Original Screenplay. And the nominees are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, 1917, Sam Mendes, and Christy Wilson Cairns, Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach. Knives Out, Ryan Johnson, and Parasite, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won. And Parasite took the win. Bong Joon-ho, best original screenplay, and 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I can't complain about it. I think my sort of like wish for Ryan Johnson to take home the award here has a lot to do with him not being nominated in another
Mm-hmm.
category. Um because I feel like Knives Out deserves recognition, but it's so hard to argue against the genius of Parasite. I I don't know. I don't have anything to say other than that.
No.
Like it's that thing where it's kind of like I love Knives Out so much, so maybe this was the only category that makes sense to give it to over Parasite, like on a head to head. This is
Mm-hmm.
where they're closest. Um but yeah, no. It's got to be Parasite, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think if it would have gone to Knives Out, I would have been equally as happy because they're both very good screenwriters. But I'm happy with Parasite. I think it's well deserved. I mean, I think any other year, if Parasite wasn't there, if Knives Out wasn't there, it would have gone to one or the other.
Hmm.
Honestly, um, so yeah, I think it's well deserved. So for best director, the category was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, 1917, Sam Mendes, Joker, Todd Phillips, The Irishman, Martin Scorsese, and Parasite, Bong Joon-ho. And Parasite, Bong Joon-ho won Best Director, which also I'm very happy with. I think, and I think you also alluded to it, Ryan Johnson should have been nominated for this category.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and if you were to just give me my soapbox, AJ,
Hmm.
what the hell is Todd Phillips doing up there?
Yep. 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 Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ryan Johnson's not in this category, but Todd Phillips is in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else, Martin Scorsese, Sam Mendes, well deserved. I haven't seen The Irishman, but Martin Scorsese has a great body of work, so he has the accolades. So I have no idea
Hmm.
why Ryan Johnson's not in this.
Yep. Yeah. I'm upset at Ryan Johnson not being in it. I'm upset at Greta Gerwig not being in it. I'm
Also,
upset at Lulu Wang, who took home Best Director in the Independent Film in the Spirit Independent Film Awards, the Spirit Awards, just like the night before the Oscars, actually. um, she took home the directing prize there. And then Todd Phillips. I don't again, I haven't seen Joker, so maybe I don't know. But again, it's also the thing about that film not being for me, you know. And
mm-hmm.
so I don't I don't understand. Um, and especially because they're not limited, right? Like they still had room to nominate extra people that they could have.
Yeah.
Um, and the directorial hand of all of those directors that I just named was felt in everything, that film. Like I could tell, and it was beautiful. So I don't know. This is one of the categories I think that like really annoyed me from this past year, to no end. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was really upset at this one. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%. We talked about best adapted screenplay with Taika and Jojo Rabbit. That surprised me. Period. I mean, I like Taika, and I'm glad it went to him. But this is another category that I thought he would have been in because like I keep saying, for me, when a movie anything is good or bad, it's noticeable, and I thought this is one of his best directed films. So I thought he would be in this as well. But like I said, I guess it's a stat category. Again, I don't, Todd Phillips,
Todd Phillips, I mean, you could get put any one of those other directors in his place, and I think that category gets a
yeah,
lot more competitive, you know?
yeah. I mean, maybe the Todd Phillips to me is in the same camp as Zack Snyder. You know, he might be a great director, but he doesn't make
Mm.
movies that I'm personally interested in.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So that's
I wouldn't even put Snyder in the great camp, and I know that that might upset some people, but like Snyder, the thing about being a director is I feel like you have to have a holistic view and ability to sort of like meld all parts of a film together, because that's sort
mm-hmm,
of like the position that you're sitting at. You have to understand not only the visual elements but also the narrative ones and the
yeah.
performance ones. You have to understand the themes of the thing that you're making. And Snyder is terrible at that. Like, and I mean, like we've never done like a DC breakdown here, but like my biggest gripe for him is that he clearly does not understand the characterization historically of all of the characters that he's got. He's got his favorites, like he's got his favorite moments in their history, I think.
Mm-hmm,
It's okay, but like I feel like you have to have like an understanding of those things. And oh man, he gets so many things wrong. Who does a movie where Superman is brooding? Like that's not what he represents to people, and that's not going to work. And
mm-hmm,
even more so if you're bad at telling a story to begin with. And so yeah, I would never put Snyder in a great can. I like he can make you a pretty picture, like really
mm-hmm,
nice. You'll figure out a way to film something really, really wonderfully and make it be very visually visceral, you know.
mm-hmm,
But no, I don't think he understands storytelling at all, and that's I think that that's
mm-hmm.
his shortcoming.
Yeah. I mean, I should
Yeah.
clarify. It's not because I think they're in the same camp. I think they're in different ends of the same um, category, I guess, where
Mhm.
Snyder doesn't know characters, but I think Phillips, he thinks what he's saying is more deep than it is.
Yeah,
And that's all I'll say
they're
about it.
similar in that way. No, they're similar in that way, 100%. You know, yeah,
So
I
maybe
see
we'll
that.
do an episode on Phillips eventually
Well, so we're
for
gonna
$1
watch The
million.
Hangover.
The best trilogy in this. And I can't do it. Okay, so we're gonna just go right through these next categories because we still got quite a bit.
Okay.
Best supporting actor. The nominees are Joe Pesci, The Irishman; Al Pacino,
Mhm.
The Irishman; Sir Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes; Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood; and Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Brad Pitt takes the win for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen these films. I'm okay with it, but it's a stat category. That's
Yeah,
a really stat category.
yeah, and I think the best
Good
parts
one
of
for
that
him.
movie are the actors. Honestly, the performances are the best things. So I don't mind it. Um, Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Margot Robbie, Bombshell; Florence Pugh, Little Women;
Mhm.
Scarlett Scarlett Johansson, Jojo Rabbit; Kathy Bates, Richard Jewell; and Laura Dern, Marriage Story.
And Laura Dern won this one, right?
Laura Dern won this one. Which
Yeah.
here, let me just say this: Laura Dern was in Marriage Story, and she was also in Little Women. And isn't technically she a supporting actress in Little Women as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought Little Women was the best Laura Dern performance of her career, in my humble opinion. Of all the
Whoa.
things that I've
Whoa.
seen her in,
Whoa.
which is not a
Whoa.
lot.
That's
It's
high
Star
praise
Wars, it's
because
Jurassic
Jurassic Park,
Park's
man.
Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Marriage Story, and this, and a few other things that I've seen that I just can't think of. But I thought that was her best performance because I am not a huge Laura Dern fan, and
What?
just putting it out there.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
But this Little Women made me a Laura Dern fan. So
Oh boy.
this is when I understood the Laura Dern fandom. It's like, okay, I get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is the
Yeah.
movie that made me think, okay, Laura Dern, she deserves all the awards that she gets nominated for because she
Yeah.
is great. She's great in these movies. But Marriage Story, that I saw this one before Little Women, and I thought, oh my God, Laura Dern is in this. Because I was still in that camp where I'm like, I don't know why I wasn't like into the things that or the type of acting that she did um, in the past. But I think now knowing what I know about Laura Dern from Little Women, maybe watching those movies, well, maybe I'll watch it in a different way.
Hopefully, because you're wrong. She is a national treasure and has been underappreciated for so long. Um, I'll admit I haven't seen a whole lot of Laura Dern either. I haven't even watched Marriage Story, so like I can't even speak to that directly. But in everything that I've seen her in, I've always come away thinking to myself like that Laura Dern, she is just incredibly professional. She gets the job done. Whew, she is good. I enjoyed her very much in Jurassic Park. When she did not come back for The Lost World, I was like, get it out of here. She was like one of the best parts of the whole damn thing, and I was disappointed in that. Um, you're right. I loved her in Little Women, and let me just say that I feel like that is a role that she was made to play. Like
Oh yeah.
just in the things like that I've seen her do, she is perfect for that. And honestly, if I could just have Laura Dern telling me comforting, like giving me comforting words or like sage advice and motherly wisdom, I would love that just forever on a loop.
Mm-hmm.
She's great, man. I don't know. I love Laura Dern. I'll watch anything she does. Give me a car commercial with Laura Dern in it, and it's already better than whatever other actor you could put in there. I'm down for
There
her.
you go. Yeah. So I mean, I agree. I agree with Best Supporting Actress going to Laura Dern, but I think it's for the wrong role.
Mm,
Let me just say
that's
that.
fair. That's fair.
So the next category is Best Actor. The nominees were Jonathan Pryce, The Two Popes, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory,
Banderas.
and Joaquin Phoenix, The Joker. And the win goes to Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin.
Joaquin.
If it was coming, it was coming. I don't know. I heard great things about Banderas in Pain and Glory, and
Yeah,
I'm
so did
really
I.
sad that I haven't seen it. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Give the Joker the one thing, I guess.
And for me, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, so it might be a great performance. But Joaquin Phoenix, I just don't like the guy. And I don't think that's ever gonna change. Laura Dern, hey, 100%, Laura Dern fan right here. Now that I've seen her and other things that I really like, 100%. Joaquin Phoenix, oh my god, he might be a good actor, but I just can't get past that persona that he puts out there.
Mm,
I just can't do it.
mm.
But hey, it might be the performance of his career. So I haven't seen it, so it might be it. I just
I
personally
have
can't get past Joaquin.
see. I haven't seen it, but like Joaquin, the Joaquin movie that I saw, where I was just like, oh yeah, I get it. Like I understand. Was The Master, and he was. I mean, and The Master already came after her, which I haven't seen, but like I get it, So like
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe for me it's that I don't understand why this film right now and why the role in this way now. Why
Mm-hmm.
are you giving me an 11, you know, in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it about this role that like brought that out in you? I guess those questions might be the only reason for me to check out that film. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't be too fussed about it, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that. Uh, I just don't think it needed to go to him this year. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Adam Driver did a great job in Marriage Story. I don't think it's like
Yeah.
a performance of a lifetime, but I think he did great in that. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's always giving it 110% whatever he does.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Leonardo DiCaprio is a giant creep, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
Um, but Joaquin, he it's like in the same camp. I keep comparing people. It's Jared Leto to me. Like I just can't stand the guy in anything. Because I see, I'm a huge like behind the scenes buff. I watch everything of making of any movie, so I'm always like looking at actors and directors and cinematographers. So whenever an actor rubs me the wrong way, it's really hard for me to see past that. And that's one of them. The first thing I saw Joaquin Phoenix that I can remember, and it was her, and I thought, wow, this is a great actor, but I just can't see past the horror stories of like makeup
Working
artists
with
and
him.
other
Yeah.
like I just can't,
Yeah.
because that's the side of production
Yeah.
that I'm passionate about, the
Yeah.
making of these things, not just the acting
Yeah.
side or the directing side. I just can't get past that, but that's more of a personal thing than a professional
Yeah.
thing. So it might
Yeah,
be
but I mean, it's a very real thing. Like I'm with you on Leto. Like I don't care how good of a performance it is. I just don't wanna. I don't want to deal with him. So
yeah,
I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
yeah. So next category is best actress. And the nominees are Charlize Theron, Bombshell; Saoirse Ronan, Little Women; Scarlett
Sersha.
Johansson, Saoirse. Telling you, this pronunciations, it'll be the death of me.
Well, the thing about Gaelic is it's really hard.
Oh my gosh, Ugh, can't do it.
I need
Scarlett
to I need to show
Johansson.
you like Gaelic for like Kevin. It looks nothing like Kevin. There's an M in there.
Yeah, I need to pay attention more when I see these people's names on TV, when people are
Yeah.
pronouncing them, and then I'll
Yeah.
get the hang of them. But today's not the day. So next one is Scarlett Johansson, Marriage Story; Cynthia Erivo, Harriet; and
Mhm.
Renee Zellweger, Judy. And the win going to Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I
I didn't see that movie. I've never been a big
yeah,
Renee Zellweger fan.
I've liked her. I think that she's had an interesting career, especially sort of like post her big breakout, which was Jerry Maguire, and then like the Bridget Jones movies,
Mm-hmm.
Um I think for me, and so I've been saving this from all the performance categories. We're missing a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big misses is anyone from the ensemble of Knives Out or Parasite. None.
100%.
No nominations for either of those two films, and they are masterpieces and they deserve nominations. Um, I mean, especially Parasite. If you're going to talk about like actors who are under the radar in America in particular, like that,
Mm-hmm.
what a group. Um, the other thing, and maybe we should have brought this up during the directing snubs too, is we didn't get a nomination from Booksmart. And I feel like Booksmart's directing, which is Olivia Wilde, and then the acting, and well, I mean, they kind of did this, right? There were two nominations in the supporting actress category from the same film, right? Like you could have put two co-leads, here, because the film between Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein. Um, it hinges on their ability to deliver. The problem is, much like horror, the Academy doesn't know what to do with
Hmm.
comedy. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I guess great for Renee Zellweger. I didn't see the film, but there were also some great performances in all the categories that were just entirely left out, and I'll never
Hmm.
understand that either.
Yeah, 100%. So the last category of the night, AJ, the big one,
Mm, mm,
stag category. There was a lot of nominations for this category. So
mhm,
the nominees were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
mhm,
1917, Marriage Story, Little Women, Joker, Jojo Rabbit, The Irishman, Ford versus Ferrari, and Parasite.
mhm,
Very,
mhm,
very stacked category. I was
mhm,
surprised. And I've seen most of these. I think I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 1917, Marriage Story, Little Women, Jojo Rabbit, and Parasite. I have not seen The Irishman, Ford versus Ferrari, or Joker.
mhm.
Um, but the movies that I watched, I thought 100%, you know, I think maybe not Jojo Rabbit. And I like Jojo Rabbit quite a bit just because it was such a stacked category. Um,
Yeah,
you could have put other movies in here. The ones that you've mentioned, I mean, there's none that I can think off the top of my head, but I know you mentioned quite a bit of them, and especially indie movies that didn't get a lot of recognition this year. But the winner for this category was Parasite, which I was really happy with.
yeah, yeah. I I agree. I think that Knives Out should have gotten a nomination. Did
Oh,
not.
that's the only one.
Um, yeah, that was like the big one, especially since Little Women was recognized here. Which again, it's really weird. You're gonna nominate Little Women for best film, best adapted, but not for best directing. What are you thinking,
Hmm.
Academy? Again, I think that I really really wish that the Academy knew what to do with comedies, because Booksmart probably should have. And the thing about Booksmart is, while it was a smaller film, it was like one of those broad films that I feel like enough people maybe went out to see. And it was kind of early. It was an early summer flick, so I felt like it had time. But yeah, Knives Out should have been in there like from the jump, and I was really surprised that Ryan Johnson didn't get more love for that film. But yeah,
Hmm.
no complaints. I think Parasite deserved it. That was one of those pleasant surprises because I didn't think they were gonna get it. It looked like 1917 might be walking away with it, and that probably would have been fine too, just based on what I'd heard. But it was really meaningful to see Parasite win. So
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I was very surprised because my money would have been in 1917, especially because it seems like an Oscar buzz movie.
yep,
Um, but it's I think it's a great, great movie. But I'm super glad that Parasite won it because all around, I thought it was the most original one out of the bunch. And
yeah,
like, if you've listened to our Parasite episode, this is the Parasite is the movie, one of those movies that make me fall in love with cinema over and over
yeah,
again. These are the type
yeah,
of movies that I want to have been made. So for it to win like such a prestigious award, even though awards mean nothing,
right.
um, I'm glad that it's out there because then we get more of these type of movies that are more original and that are well directed, well shot, well edited, and well directed. So yeah, I'm glad that this won.
Yeah, no, I agree. Big night, and I was really glad, especially after the debacle that was last year's, which we'll never ever talk about ever again.
And I think it's one of our highest rated episodes
Oh, oh, really?
because I think we go off for a while.
Oh my gosh, it deserved it though. God, I was so mad, so mad. What a terrible, terrible award to win. That film was bad. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, this made up for it.
yeah.
Woohoo!
For 3 4 months late, but it's out there.
It's out there. It's out there. So that ends our Oscar talk. Thank you all for riding with us. I think this one's going to be our longest one yet. Before we go, Lou, do you want to talk about what's bringing you joy this week?
Yeah, I haven't really been checking much out. It's been kind of slow at home, so I haven't really watched much. I've been trying to finish projects, the last few of my projects. So I haven't really watched anything or movies or anything. But things that I would like to recommend that I've just are always on repeat in my repertoire of media. 1917s, I mean 1917s, the 1975 album from last year that we reviewed on the show, A Brief Inquiry of Online Relationships. It's still on repeat on my Spotify and in my title or whatever. So I think from start to finish, it's a great album. I think it's definitely one to check out, and it still brings me joy a year later. And we were supposed to get the second installment of this kind of record that 1917 was going to release, but I think it's been delayed even before
Okay.
all of this happened. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do next. And the other thing is, I mean, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but we were putting it out there about doing a Harry Potter episode just for charity. Anywho, it also reminded me how much I like those movies, but especially those books. So Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. If you have, if you don't uh, mind reading books in out of order and that have been released over 20 years, definitely check it out because it's a great book. It's my favorite book, my favorite movie of the bunch. And Alfonso Cuaron, who should have won last year, or at
Mhm.
least he directed this movie. So it's an amazing film. I think it's definitely not just another big blockbuster film or big studio film, but it's a great movie. And Harry Potter, the franchise, owes a lot to thank Alfonso Cuarón for the way that those movies went, because there would be nothing without a Major. Nothing.
I believe you, Lou. I believe you. That sounds great. Thank you for those. So for what's bringing me joy this week, uh, tough day today. But I think the thing that I've been sort of like checking out, I probably mentioned it last week, but Stardew Valley has been really fun. I can't afford a Switch, so I forgot that I had this game from like 4 years ago that is basically like Animal Crossing. So I've been doing that, and it's been really fun. I logged like a lot of minutes this past weekend and into this week, and like it really is a fun little way to sort of like shut your mind down. And then the other thing is I've been watching this bonkers documentary on Hulu, which was produced by HBO, called McMillions, and it was about the you remember those Monopoly game at McDonald's?
Yeah.
Well, apparently there was a scandal around it where all the major winners, like if you won like a major prize, um, you it was likely all the major prize winners from like the cars, the high monetary values, they were all fake. Like they
Oh,
like one person had rigged a whole system so that
yeah.
like very specific people would win. And look, I have a lot of feelings about the FBI, and I feel like all of them come out while I'm watching this ridiculous thing. So I'm on my last episode, which I think I'll watch tomorrow night. Worth it for you guys. I think Hulu and HBO struck a quick deal, probably right before everything falls off of Hulu's, because HBO Max is going to be released in what, like a month or two, something like that.
Mm.
We're on the verge of it, and so probably one of those like little tasters where it's like you can get a taste of what HBO's got, and then everything gets yanked off the platform. So check it out, McMillions. I know a lot of folks watched it when it first aired on HBO, but if you haven't, it's on Hulu.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you all for hanging with us, and make sure that you click subscribe. I don't know where we're gonna put the dialogue
Somewhere.
box. We'll go do that. Yeah, maybe it'll be right on top of Luis's palm.
Maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
here. Maybe here. I
Maybe.
don't know.
Oh, there you
If I
go.
can
There
figure
you
out
go.
YouTube.
And yeah, thank y'all so much, and we'll catch y'all next episode. Peace out.
Bye.